Listen, I need you to stop what you're doing right now because what I'm about to tell you could be the difference between building real wealth in 2026 and staying broke for the rest of your life. And I know that sounds dramatic, but here's the reality. Right now, in 2026, we're living through one of the most dangerous financial periods in modern history. Inflation is still eating away at your purchasing power. Interest rates are at levels we haven't seen in decades. And yet I watch people every single day making the same five purchasing decisions that are absolutely destroying their ability to build wealth. You know, and the worst part, the absolute worst part, is that these aren't obvious mistakes. These are things that society, that your friends, that even your family are telling you that you need to buy. They're telling you these purchases are smart. They're telling you these are investments. But let me be crystal clear with you. They're not investments. They're wealth destroyers. They're anchors that are going to drag you down financially for years or even decades to come. You know, now before we dive in, I want you to understand something. I spent over 40 years building businesses, investing in companies, and helping people understand money. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that 2026 is not the year to be making emotional purchases. This is not the year to be keeping up with the Joneses, because here's what's happening right now that most people don't understand. We're in an environment where every dollar you spend unwisely today is costing you $10, $20, maybe even $50 in future wealth. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to walk you through the 5 things you absolutely must stop buying in 2026. I'm going to explain exactly why each one is a wealth killer. I'm going to show you the math, the real numbers that nobody wants to talk about. And most importantly, I'm going to tell you what to do instead, all right? Let's start with number 1. And this is going to upset a lot of people, but I don't care because it needs to be said. Stop buying brand new cars in 2026. Buying a brand new car is one of the single worst financial decisions you can make. And let me explain exactly why with real numbers that you cannot argue with. When you drive a brand new car off the lot, it loses between 20 and 30% of its value immediately, not over time, immediately. So if you buy a $50,000 car, which is about average for a new car in 2026, you just lost $10,000 to $15,000 the second you drove it home. By the end of the first year, that car has lost about 40% of its value. By the end of year 3, it's lost about 60%. So your $50,000 car is now worth maybe $20,000. Oh, but wait, it gets even worse. Because most people don't buy cars with cash, they finance them. So now you're paying interest on a depreciating asset. Let's say you finance that $50,000 car at 7% interest over 5 years. You're going to pay about $9,500 in interest alone. So now you're $60,000 into this car, and it's worth maybe $15,000 after 5 years. You just lost $45,000. Now let me show you what happens if you do this differently. If you take that same $50,000 and instead buy a 3-year-old certified pre-owned car, you're getting basically the same car, same features, same reliability, but you're paying maybe $25,000 to $30,000 because someone else already ate that massive depreciation. So right there you just saved $20,000 to $25,000. And here's where it gets interesting. If you take that $20,000 you saved and invest it in a diversified portfolio, averaging 10% returns, in 10 years that $20,000 becomes about $52,000. In 20 years it becomes $135,000. In 30 years it becomes $350,000. So the decision to buy a new car versus a used car isn't just a $20,000 decision. It's potentially a $350,000 decision when you factor in opportunity cost, And this compounds over your lifetime because people don't just buy one new car, they buy a new car every 3 to 5 years. So you're making this mistake over and over again. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, Kevin, but I want a reliable car. I don't want to deal with repairs. And I get it, but here's the thing. Cars today are incredibly reliable. A 3-year-old car with 30,000 to 40,000 miles on it is barely broken. In modern cars are engineered to last 200,000 miles or more. And if you buy certified pre-owned, you're getting a warranty anyway. So here's your action item for thing number 1. If you're currently thinking about buying a new car in 2026, stop. Instead, look at certified pre-owned options that are 2 to 4 years old. Buy something reliable, something that fits your needs, and take the difference and invest it, because that decision right there could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime. Now let's talk about thing number 2. Stop buying houses that are too big, because in 2026, with where interest rates are, with where property taxes are, with where maintenance costs are, buying an oversized house is an absolute wealth killer. Here's what actually happens. Let's say you buy a $600,000 house in 2026. You put down 20%, which is $120,000, and you finance $480,000 at 7% interest over 30 years. Your monthly payment just for principal and interest is about $3,200, but that's not all. Now you've got property taxes, which could be another $800 to $1,200 a month. Homeowners insurance, which is another $200 to $300. Maintenance, which is another $500 a month. Utilities, which for a big house could easily be $300 to $400. So now you're looking at $5,000 to $5,500 a month just to own this house, and over the life of that 30-year mortgage, you're going to pay about $670,000 in interest alone. So your $600,000 house actually cost you $1.27 million, and that's not even counting the property taxes, insurance, and maintenance, which over 30 years is going to be another $400,000 to $500,000, right? Now let me show you a different scenario. What if instead of buying a $600,000 house, you buy a $400,000 house? Now your monthly payment is about $2,100 for principal and interest. Your total monthly costs are maybe $3,500 instead of $5,500. That's a $2,000 a month difference, right? So what do you do with that extra $2,000 a month? If you invest that $2,000 every single month in a diversified portfolio, averaging 10% returns, after 30 years, you have $3.9 million. By buying a smaller house and investing the difference, you end up with almost $4 million versus buying the bigger house and ending up with just the house and no liquid wealth. The wealthy people I know, the people with real money, they don't buy the biggest house they can afford. They buy a house that's comfortable and efficient, and then they invest the rest. They keep their money working for them. So here's your action item for thing number 2. If you're thinking about buying a house in 2026, really ask yourself, do I need this space? And if you're honest with yourself, you'll probably realize that you can live comfortably in something smaller and then take that difference and invest it, build wealth with it, create financial freedom with it. All right. Thing number 3, stop buying luxury items and status symbols. And I'm talking about designer clothes, expensive watches, luxury handbags, jewelry, all of this stuff that people buy to look wealthy instead of actually being wealthy. Let me give you some real examples. Let's say you buy a Rolex watch for $15,000. That watch doesn't appreciate. It just sits on your wrist, telling you the same time that a $50 watch tells you. Now imagine if you took that $15,000 and invested it at 10% returns over 30 years. That's $262,000. You traded $250,000 in future wealth for a watch. Right? Or let's talk about designer clothes. You buy a $2,000 designer handbag. That bag loses value the second you walk out of the store. Meanwhile, you could have bought a $200 handbag that functions exactly the same way and invested the $1,800 difference. Here's what you need to understand. Wealthy people, truly wealthy people, they don't waste money on status symbols. They don't care about impressing random people. They care about building and protecting their wealth. They're what we call stealth wealth, you know? And here's the really sad part. The people you're trying to impress with your luxury items, they're either broke like you and also pretending, or they're actually wealthy and they think you're an idiot for wasting your money. Nobody wins in this game except the corporation selling you the stuff. Let's say between designer clothes, expensive dinners, luxury items, you spend an extra $1,000 a month on this stuff. That's $12,000 a year. If you invested that instead at 10% returns, after 30 years, you'd have $2.2 million. You're trading $2.2 million in future wealth for the temporary satisfaction of looking rich. Now let's talk about thing number 4. Stop buying extended warranties and unnecessary insurance products. And I know this seems small, but this adds up to a staggering amount over your lifetime. You know, every time you buy electronics, appliances, furniture, you get offered an extended warranty. But here's the reality. Extended warranties are one of the highest profit margin products that retailers sell because they almost never pay out. Statistically, most products don't break during the warranty period, right? The average person spends about $200 to $300 a year on extended warranties. That's $300 a year that you're essentially gambling on something breaking. And studies show that consumers use them less than 15% of the time. Over 30 years, that's $9,000 wasted. And if you invested that $300 a year instead at 10% returns, you'd have about $54,000. Okay? Here's my rule. If it's something you can afford to replace or repair out of pocket without going into debt, you don't need insurance for it. Insurance is for catastrophic events. It's for your health, your life, your car, your home, not for your phone, not for your laptop, not for your TV. You know, and here's the thing. Insurance is a bet, and the insurance company has all the data. They know that mathematically they're going to win this bet the vast majority of the time. So when you buy insurance that you don't actually need, you're taking a bet that you're mathematically likely to lose. You know what's better than payment protection insurance? An emergency fund. If you save 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account, you're protected against job loss, medical issues, any emergency, and you're not paying premiums for coverage you probably can't use. So here's your action item for thing number 4. Go through all your monthly subscriptions, identify every insurance product and warranty that you're paying for. And if you can afford to handle it yourself, cancel it, redirect that money into your emergency fund or into investments. All right, here's thing number 5, and this might be the most important one of all. Stop buying things on payment plans. Stop accumulating consumer debt, because here's the brutal truth. If you can't afford to buy something in cash, you can't afford it, period. In 2026, we're living in a payment plan economy. Everything is available on monthly payments. Companies have made it so easy to buy things you can to afford that most people don't even think about it anymore. But what they don't realize is that they're drowning in payments. They've got the car payment, the furniture payment, the phone payment, all these little payments that add up to hundreds or thousands of dollars a month. Upper fa. Let me show you how insane this is. Let's say you buy a $3,000 laptop on a payment plan at 20% interest over 2 years. At the end, you've paid about $3,600 for that laptop. You paid an extra $600 in interest. Now that laptop is probably worth $800 if you tried to sell it. So you paid $3,600 for something that's worth $800. No, and here's what's really happening. These companies are trapping you in a perpetual debt cycle. You never get out of debt. You never build wealth. You never have freedom because you're always working to make payments, right? The average American in 2026 has about $6,500 in credit card debt at an average interest rate of about 22% minimum payments. You're going to pay more in interest over time than the original amount you borrowed. Here's what you need to understand. Debt is a tool. It can be used to build wealth if you use it correctly. If you borrow money to buy assets that appreciate or generate cash flow, like real estate or a business, that's good debt. But borrowing money to buy consumer goods, that's bad debt. That's wealth-destroying debt. And here's the opportunity cost. If you're paying $500 a month in consumer debt payments, that's $6,000 a year that could be invested. Over 30 years at 10% returns, that's over $1.1 million in lost wealth. So here's your action item for thing number 5. If you have consumer debt right now, make getting out of debt your number one financial priority. Stop buying new things on payment plans. Attack your debt with everything you've got. And once you're out, stay out. Commit to never buying anything on a payment plan again unless it's a strategic use of debt for wealth building purposes. All right? So let's recap. These are the 5 things you absolutely must stop buying in 2026. Number 1, brand new cars. Buy used and invest the difference. Number 2, oversized houses. Buy what you need, not what your ego wants. Number 3, luxury items and status symbols. Stop trying to look rich and start actually building wealth. Number 4, extended warranties and unnecessary insurance products. Self-insure and invest the savings. And number 5,